the journey of any athlete really is not the linear path to stardom that I think everyone maybe thinks it is. It has a lot of loops and dips and everything. So I think that understanding that if you want to do this, like you have to commit to it and understand that you are going to go through a lot of ups and a lot of downs and being willing to kind of ride the waves.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, near or far. Welcome back to the Coach D podcast. And today, listeners, we are joined by Devon Brookshire, a 6'3" pro center from California who has played across 10 plus countries across Europe and beyond. Devon brings a rare blend of high level experience, a degree in kinesiology and psychology, as well as being a mindset and player development coach. In this conversation, we're going to break down the realities of playing overseas, the evolution of the modern big, and how to build real confidence and the habits young athletes need to level up. So, listeners, please, without further ado, give a warm welcome to Devon Brookshire. Appreciate you, Devon.
Thank you. That was a nice intro.
Absolutely. Yeah, just before we even get started, as we are recording this, we how is your physical and how is your mental, Devon?
Doing well. Yeah, I think
No.
I'm just really locked in on season right now and trying to just get better every day with my teammates and get these
Mhm.
last few games in and then enjoy the holiday a little bit.
Right, right. As you should as well. And it's funny because doing this podcast, I really start to learn players' backgrounds with regards to what they were seeing, what they were doing when they were learning how to play the game, and how the environment can really impact their style of play. Even I'm kind of hearing, I've had some guests from overseas pros who grew up on like the East Coast where they kind of tell me like when you're playing in the park, coach, no blood, no foul. You just gotta play through it. We're gonna talk a lot of trash, but we're gonna back it up. Then you got the West Coast, at least so I hear. It's a bit more chill. You got the palm trees. They got a little cool swagger to the game, a jumper. So for yourself,
Everyone wants to
Devin,
talk about the palm trees.
yeah, literally, like taking us back, Devin, to the beginning. What was basketball like for you growing up in California, and when did you realize you could take your game beyond high school?
Yeah, so when I was little, my parents put me in all the sports pretty much. So I tried everything, but pretty quickly locked in on basketball. I would say by the time I was 10, I just loved it, and I said that this is what I want to do. I want to play in college, and I want to eventually play pro. So I was very focused as a kid, which
Yeah,
it has its pros and cons, but yeah, so that was kind of my mindset, and then getting once I got in high school, I was had a good career there, and I knew entering high school that I wanted to continue into college, and so went through the whole recruiting
okay,
process and all of that. So yeah, I would say quite early I was definitely locked in.
right. And it's really interesting because I had this talk with one of my players, and she's like taller than me because I'm 5'11", 6 foot on a good day,
Hmm.
but 5'11", and she's like at least 6'1", 6'2", and it's funny because from my perspective, I was like, you're so tall and we're still developing your game in the post and on the outside. And
Hmm.
you just feeling comfortable. And we kind of got to a point in the conversation where we was like, you know what, coach? To be honest, like especially as a girl, the only time I feel comfortable, coach, is when I'm playing basketball because I'm around other
Mm.
girls who look like me or have the same height. So that kind of gave me a newfound perspective with regards to, someone from the outside looking in might see someone who's super tall and be like, oh, it must be nice. But in
Hmm.
actuality, you stand out. And especially if you're not playing a sport where you kind of are camouflage in a way, it can be a bit daunting at times. So for
Hmm.
yourself, being a 6'3" center, how did you develop your identity as a big growing up? And were there any challenges or misconceptions you had to overcome?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I always admired bigs when I was growing up that could shoot and that were really versatile. So I really prided myself on that early on, and I had really great coaches when I was young too that didn't just
Nice.
like stick me in the on the block with my back to the basket and only let me do that. So I was always working on ball handling, working on passing, working on shooting, just trying to develop the kind of the fullness of my game to get me to a point where I was as versatile as possible. So I mean, in college I played the wing sometimes, so I'm definitely
Nice.
used to multiple positions. And I think I was in kind of when I was growing up was when that was really starting to become more popular too. I think now it's very
Mm.
um, it's rampant everywhere. Like bigs are trying to probably shoot too much versus getting the post.
Yeah. I
But I think that but I think that I was really kind of I was on that trend, which would help develop my game in all aspects of it. And then to your point as well about being tall when you're young. I mean, even to this day, if I had $1 for every time someone came up to me and asked, how tall are you? Do you play basketball? And I mean,
wow.
thank goodness that yeah, oh, it's constant. And I mean the answer is yes, so it's fine. And it's not that it's not fine if it's no. But like you said, there at a certain height, there's kind of just an automatic like label put on you by outsiders. And I always loved my height. I didn't really struggle with it, but a lot of that was because of basketball. The only danger with that is growing up sometimes then your identity becomes a little bit too intertwined with basketball because to
Yes.
everyone else,
Yeah.
like, oh, you're the basketball player. And then you get a little bit too focused on your worth being tied to your performance. So that's kind of a trap
Yes.
that I see with a lot of young athletes. And obviously, I've fallen into that as well. But I've done a lot of work to try to kind of separate the two.
Yes.
So that's kind of just what I wanted to touch on because I thought that was a really good point that you mentioned about just that early identification as being maybe a little bit different.
Right, and this is what kind of makes me even excited, to be honest, to have you on a podcast because you're very multifaceted, to be honest, Devin.
So,
Because it's not like you're a player. You've got psychology, kinesiology, and you're a mindset coach as well, and you really help people manage expectations of themselves and others, and really getting down to what is confidence. How do I know when I feel confident? Which is something that I'm really excited to talk about later on in the pod, but. I feel like as we kind of stay on your early life, I feel like every player, no, whether it's basketball, football, tennis, rugby, there's that moment when the game starts to slow down. You just get that tunnel
mhm.
vision. You already see the help defense. You've caught the ball. You see the defender, so it's already a shot fake, and it's not like you're thinking about it. You're just in flow state. So for yourself, Devin, when was that moment for you when you realized that I'm actually nice at basketball?
I don't know. I think again, probably quite young. I would say maybe when I was like 12, I was doing
Wow. Okay.
I was doing elite camps. I was playing above my age group. So I think I knew at that point and then I just really built on that. I think I also but I still didn't fully know because even when I entered, I remember like before high school wondering, oh, I wonder if I'll make varsity. And I mean, I started on varsity as a freshman, so my whole career. So I
Wow.
think there was like a healthy balance of knowing I'm good, but also not really knowing and not really sure how I'm going to
Yes.
level up as I continue, which I think is good because I've definitely never been a player who just automatically thinks I'm going to come in and like own the gym. I think which is not a bad thing. But I've been more on the side of confidence is something that I've had to really work on and focus on and build versus the other way around.
Yeah. Right. And as we kind of transition to you becoming a pro, I think even before that decision was made, I'm super curious. Like, as someone growing up in the US, what was your exposure like to the game of what basketball looked like outside of the US? Like, was you already aware of it? Did you have teammates? I mean, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, at the college level you competed at, I believe you had a few teammates that were Australian, I believe.
Yeah.
So like, did so you already had an idea about what pro basketball looked like overseas. Is that
A
correct?
little
Or
bit. Yeah, I would say so. I went to Northwestern first in Chicago. So I was there for 2 years, and we did a foreign tour in Italy going into my
yeah,
freshman year. So I guess that was my first major exposure because we played, some professional teams there. To basketball in Europe, and then, as you said, then I transferred to St. Mary's after 2 years,
yeah.
and I had many Australian teammates. I think at one point they outnumbered the Americans with the team, so I had a lot of exposure to that style of basketball as well. And I think I've had Europeans on both colleges as well, so I knew about it, but it's definitely not as I mean, growing up in the States, like your goal is WNBA, So I
Yeah,
think I didn't have a ton of exposure to it before I really started it. But I mean, it's an experience that I think should get a little bit more, I guess, hyped in the States because it's such an amazing opportunity to go overseas and to play in different places that you would never even think of and experience culture as well as
right.
getting to do what you love. So yeah.
Right. And even just with regards to your player development, like I mean, like you said earlier, you was already playing varsity and you was already going to elite camps and playing up from a young age. So
Hmm.
already you're realizing that I'm actually not good, but I'm kind of separating myself from the average players because I'm able to play at the next level. So when was that moment then, Devin, where you realized that I can actually play this game professionally?
Know if I had one specific moment. I just kind of remember my first 2 years in college were a bit of a struggle, just because basketball it wasn't the best fit for me, and I wasn't playing much at all. And I remember thinking, but I was at a phenomenal school. So I remember thinking to myself that I can stay and get a great degree, and then basketball's like done, or I can see what other opportunities there are to play more and to kind of continue pursuing my potential on the court. And it wasn't really a hard decision for me because I just knew I wanted to play. But I didn't, even at that point, I wasn't really thinking too much beyond college. I just knew I wanted to play. Then, after I transferred, I had to redshirt a year, and then I've had 2 more years of eligibility. And that first year that I was actually playing, that junior season, that I knew that I still wanted to play after. It was more that I just wasn't done. I knew that I had more
Okay, I
in
like
me, and I
that.
wanted to
Yeah.
keep playing.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, here we are,
Even
like
on
nine
that,
years
like
later, still not done.
I love it as you should, because I feel like, to be honest with you, Devin, your book is very much still being written, and I love how even at that point in your life, you was like, I'm not done, so I'm still
Hmm.
gonna pursue it. And even now you're saying I'm not done. Even, you've been playing in so many different leagues and so many teams, if you've got a wealth of experience, you're still very much a student of the game, so I love that approach,
Yeah,
honestly. And even
yeah.
just for young athletes who are listening, who aspire to compete at the pro level, what should they be focusing on right now, both on the court and off the court?
I would say on the court, everyone's always good. I mean, I think working hard is just like the baseline. So you have to be not only just working hard to work hard, but you have to be intentional with how you work.
Yes,
So
well said.
yeah, so knowing where your potential is and what your strengths are and really honing in on those, and obviously addressing weaknesses as well, but just finding who you are as a player and what makes you unique and what makes you someone that a coach wants to keep in the game or has to keep in the game ideally. And just honing in on that, I would say, for on the court. And then off the court, obviously I'm a mindset coach, so I'm going to say develop that mindset. But you want
Right.
to you want to just make sure that you have a high level of resilience. And I think that this the journey of any athlete really is not the linear path to stardom that I think everyone maybe thinks it is. It has a lots of loops and dips and everything. So I think that understanding that if you want to do this, like you have to commit to it and understand that you are going to go through a lot of ups and a lot of downs and being willing to kind of ride the wave, as a California girl would say. So you just have to be able to take the ups and the downs, and as I kind of mentioned earlier as well, uh, make sure you're developing your identity outside of your sport, because at the end of the day, basketball is what you do. It's not who you are. So you want to cultivate your value system based on all the many, many wonderful things that make you you, and not just if your team wins and how many points you score, because that's going to be a very miserable road if you base it on that.
You touched upon something that I think is so key, and you're really making me like shuffle all of my talking points, which I love,
Oh, sorry.
honestly, because no, I love it because you just really inspired a thought. Like, why do you mean that when you said there's more to you than just scoring points if you had a good game or a bad game? Like, why do you mean that? Was it from previous experience that you went through, or was it something that you would observe in other players? Because what you said is super powerful, to be honest.
Well, I think just think of if you're an athlete and you have a game, and then you go to talk to someone after the game, what are the first two questions they ask? They ask you, did you win? How many points did you
Had
score?
true.
9 times out of 10, right? So when that is being, uh, thrown at you for years and years and years and years, you're going to start kind of attributing that to, oh, if I, didn't perform today, I must not be very good. And I've definitely gone through a fair share of struggling with, if I had a bad game, it used to ruin my whole week because
Yeah.
it feels like you put so much into something, and if it doesn't go well, then it just feels kind of like, what's the point, and all this kind of dramatics of it. And I think really learning to separate that performance and really have more of a growth mindset around trying to learn and improve every day. And again, like I said before, understanding that paths aren't linear. You're not going to have a great game every single game, and just kind of matching. You can still have a huge level of striving and a huge standard for yourself, but you have to match that with the same amount of like self-compassion and love, and understanding that you're not perfect, because I'm
Yes.
definitely one that sometimes expects myself to be perfect and all the time, and everything all the time.
Yeah. I'm the same. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a struggle. So I think really cultivating that self compassion has been really important for me. And again, surrounding myself with really great people that love me for me and not just basketball helps a lot as well. And then also having other interests outside of the game helps a lot.
Right. Right. And I mean, just greatly said, to be honest, man. And just like as we look at, I want to call it your basketball passport. You know, I mean, you've played in Australia, Czech Republic, Spain, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Latvia, Portugal, Sweden. I mean, that
Hey,
is a hell of a resume, to be honest. So, like, through all of that, like, what were the biggest basketball differences you noticed from country to country, whether it's like style of play, physicality in one league, IQ, pace, coaching? Like, walk us through that.
yeah. Well, I'm impressed. You got pretty much all of them, I think. Um, uh, but yeah, I would say obviously country to country there's just slightly different styles, slightly different systems. But it also very much depends on your coaching and on your
Mm,
team and your teammates. I always say that the hardest adjustment is not on the court, it's off the court. So
well
I think
said. Yeah.
just having to get into new environments, learning the rhythm of things, learning what facilities you have and what things you have available to you, learning what you need and how to acquire them. That's always kind of the hardest, especially when you're in places also where, you don't speak the language and you're adjusting on that front and then doing your job on the other side. So I've always found that is the longer adjustment period. Then that's the basketball you can kind of figure out at this stage. You've been playing, even at the beginning of your pro career, you've been playing a long time. So you can figure out, what the coach wants. Sometimes it's hard. It's hard because you're going to be put in slightly different roles than you've, been in the past. Maybe one coach has one structure of offense that's a bit different, and one coach has a completely opposite structure. And also understanding that not everything is going to be set up for you to succeed necessarily. I mean, in an ideal world, fantastic. But it's not, and the reality is it's really not like that. And you have to figure out how to succeed regardless. So I think that's been a big lesson for me in my career overseas is just how can I myself be successful as well as help the team be successful in whatever system I'm put in whatever positions I'm put in. How can I still kind of find myself within the structure of the team?
And just even on that, like, I'm curious now, which country challenged you the most and why?
In terms of which part?
Could be from a player perspective, which one country challenged you the most, would you say? If there is a country that gave you a bit of a challenge, whether it's like adjustments or took you longer to kind of find that rhythm or...
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's not like one that's really jumping out. For me, they've all been challenging in different ways. I would say Czech Republic's probably the strongest league that I've played in. I mean, you're playing USK, who just won EuroLeague last year.
Wow.
So you're playing against a lot, and there's, I think, four or five Euro Cup teams and a couple of EuroLeague teams. So it's quite a strong league. So I think playing against that physicality was a bit of adjustment, but I mean, also how fun to play against those teams and those players. So I think that one, I mean, took me a bit to adjust, but I just kind of, again, like I said, able to kind of find my way and find what works.
Yeah. And when you look at your basketball passport, Devon, like when you get that moment to reflect and be like, you're telling me this game that I love, that I started from young, this little round ball has taken me to all these different countries, and I've connected with so many amazing people. I've learned so much about myself and others. Like when you get that time to reflect, Devon, what moments, feelings, highlights, lowlights come to mind?
Yeah, I think so. It's so easy to get wrapped up in the day to day and to zoom in and to really just be consumed with where you are, which is great. But I think, like you said, it is nice sometimes to zoom out and really think, wow, like I have really done all this and been in all these places. And I'm so grateful for that. And I think, like you said, some of the best parts of it are the people that I've met along the way, and that I have places that I could stay in all these different countries just because of the friendships that I've made. I would say, like, my very first year, I played in Ireland, and I lived with a family that had nothing to do with basketball. They had a daughter that was my age. She was in med school at the time. And now we're best friends. We still FaceTime every week.
Amazing.
She lives in Australia now. But I think that's like been a lasting connection that was just completely unexpected and really great. I have family friends in Sweden that I knew prior to playing there, and then getting to play there, I really kind of solidified that relationship, and that's been really special as well. Just having a place that also kind of finding places that feel like home away from home has been a really great part of the experience, and also an important part because it is hard to be away from home for 6 to 8 months at a time. And so finding people and places that feel like home really helps.
Right. See, and that's something again that I'm just getting a lot of insight with, like the one thing, or I would say the unseen grind or the unseen sacrifice that high level pro athletes like yourself go through is being away from home. You mentioned it, and then I've had some guests tell me like, Dee, there's sometimes when I'm missing weddings, I'm missing key important moments in my family or my partner's life, and I can't physically be there. Yeah, I can FaceTime, but that doesn't replace the essence of being with someone, you know. So
Hmm.
in those moments, Devin, if I may ask, like, what keeps you grounded? What keeps you focused? What keeps you locked in? Like how do you stay on track during those times?
Yeah, I think I'm not gonna. I won't sit here and be like, yeah, I never question what I'm doing when I'm missing a wedding and missing things like that. It definitely sometimes it puts things in perspective, and it kind of is a check of,
Mm,
okay, these are the choices I'm making. I'm okay with that right now. But am I still okay with that? And I think what's always kept me going is kind of this is my dream, and I'm living that out, and it's beautiful, and I still feel like I have so much more to tap into as a player and a person. So that's kind of what keeps me going, is just that striving for improvement and growth, and also like love for the game as well. But that doesn't mean that it's not challenged by the personal kind of sacrifices that you make by
of
playing
course.
away from home. And yeah, it's hard on relationships, it's hard on family and friendships and everything. So, but at the end of the day, at least right for now, it's worth it. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I just kind
absolutely.
of I go back to why that I'm grateful to continue to play this game and continue to grow, and that's kind of how I manage it.
Right. And you even mentioned on this earlier in the pod, which I love, just with regards to the evolution of the modern big. You know, it was
Mm,
always something special if you see a center, like a power forward center, or if like he or she could shoot the ball or handle the ball. And it's even get to the point where now where we see most bigs shooting threes rather than posting up, you know. So in today's game, you know, bigs are expected to be so much more. And so in your perspective, Devin, like how have you evolved your game over the years to stay modern and effective?
I think I've always, like I said, from a young age, shooting was really important to me. So I think making sure that I have that I'm a threat from the outside, from the 3 point shot is very important. And making sure that, yeah, like in a pick and roll situation, I can roll or pop depending on the situation. And then also, really, the mid post game has been a big focus of mine in the pro game because
Love that. Yeah.
uh yeah, like I'm not a huge back to the basket player unless I have a mismatch. So it's really, I'm also not 6'5", 6'6". So having the ability to kind of step out and face up and have moves from that angle is a big one for my position.
Right. And there was a big time play. I'm gonna add this clip to the podcast where you had a girl on the post. It was a beautiful up and under. Should have been an and one, but that's neither here nor there. But it was such a nice move. Like the footwork, I think, as a post, I think
Yeah.
is so key. And even in your opinion, Devin, like what are the essential skills every aspiring post player or forward should be developing today to stay competitive or even compete at the higher levels?
Yeah, I know the clip you're talking about. I don't know why I was so emphatic with that, but I did feel like I got that. Normally, I'm not quite that, you know, spicy, I guess. But anyway, I would say footwork is probably the most important thing that a big can develop. I think that is something again drilled into me from a very young age. But footwork is huge. That's kind of the foundation for all of your moves, all of everything comes from that. You have so many options. There's so many ways to score if you have really good footwork. So I think that's key. And I would also say you don't have to have 7,000 different moves. I would say picking,
Mm,
one or two that are kind of your go to and having one or two counters for those and really just mastering those, I think is really effective. I think sometimes we're in this day overstimulated with how many different things we can do, and it's not, you don't need it. You can keep it much more simple than you it's simpler than you think. So I think just kind of having your go-to's and some counters, and really just mastering those makes you really a dangerous threat in that position.
right, right. And as we touch upon another side, you know, which I'm super intrigued to find out, like, you know, you having a degree in psychology and kinesiology as well, like, and you know, being a mindset and player development coach. Like, how does understanding the body and mind change the way you approach the game?
Yeah, I think the mind is really really important. I think it's I've learned a lot about myself and what I need in order to perform at the level that I am capable of, and that might be different. Everyone's different in what they need. So I think that I worked with, I still work with my own kind of mindset coach, and over the years have developed specific routines that help me get into the ideal state, like prior to a game, also help me deal with challenges in games and after games. So, yeah, I have a huge awareness around it, and I'm definitely not perfect at it. It's always a work in progress. But I think that, especially at this level, it's much more about your mind than about everyone can play, everyone has the physical attributes and the skills, but are you able to perform when you need to perform and how you need to perform on any given day? That comes much more from your mind.
Right. And it's funny. It's only working in because outside of coaching basketball, I'm a full-time PE teacher in a primary
Mm,
school, and one thing I've really noticed myself teaching a lot outside of the skills, how to play a sport, it's failure, losing,
mm,
which
mhm,
is very interesting for me because even when I think back to myself as a player, love to win, hate to lose. And like there was no happy medium. Like it was if I win, I'm the best.
mhm,
If I lose, I suck. I can't believe all those hours of
mhm,
training gone to waste. My
mhm,
coach can't trust me in that game scenario anymore. And the example that I give, to the kids and bless them, they're like 6, 7, 8, 9 years old and they're still like learning. It's like I tell them, look, when you look at, the Serena Williams, the Caitlin Clarks, the Messis, the Ronaldos, do they win every single game? No.
mhm,
Why not? Well, and they don't really have the answer to that. And I'm like, even the best lose some games, but at the primary school
mhm,
level, I really preach the most important thing is they try their best and they have
mhm,
fun. If they're not doing those two things, then you can be a little bit disappointed in yourself. But as long as you're trying your very best and everyone's best is different and you're
mhm,
enjoying what you're doing, you should be proud. And I feel like many
mhm,
players struggle with confidence, fear of failure, and even comparison. So in your opinion, Devin, like what's your
mhm.
framework for building true confidence that lasts rather than just hype confidence, if that makes sense?
Right. Yeah. I think failure is feedback. It doesn't make it fun, but it's not an end point. It's just one data point in a whole set of lots of data points. So I think having that lens, viewing it from a productive lens of, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I change to get better? Is much more conducive to helping yourself than just getting stuck in it and saying, and, doom and gloom. So it doesn't mean that it's not upsetting and doesn't mean that, sometimes it hurts and all of that. I find myself, I give myself a time limit. So if there's a really rough game, I have 24 hours to wallow and be upset or whatever. And then after that, time's up and we have to be productive. And that's when like the learning cap comes on, and you're kind of like a scientist, like looking at, dissecting what went well is still really important, even in a failure. And then finding out
Yeah.
like what can be done better. So, and that goes back into that, growth versus fixed mindset. And like you said, if you're in a fixed mindset, everything feels super important because every win and every loss is, a kind of a determination of if you're good or not, which is not,
Mm,
helpful, versus a growth mindset is more of that, every day is just an opportunity to get better, and how can I learn, whether it's winning or whether it's losing, is kind of taking both in stride. So that's kind of how I look at it. And
yeah. Nice. And even just playing professionally, in so many countries that you have already, I could only imagine the pressure can be quite intense. So how
mhm.
do you personally manage expectations, team expectations, and even your own?
Yeah, still figuring that one out.
Okay. I like that. Yeah.
No, but I think kind of as I touched on earlier, you can have really high standards for yourself, but you have to meet that with compassion, and you have to do that for yourself because that's not always going to be done for you by teammates, by coaches. If it is great, but it's not always the case. So I think also I also try to focus most of my energy on things that are in my control. So I don't necessarily set outcome related goals and intentions. I set things that are more in my control, more how I want to be on the court. And because at the end of the day, you really have no control over whether you win or lose. You don't have control over
Sure.
whether a shot goes in. You have like an influence over it, how the shots that you take and how you shoot it. But you don't, at the end of the day, it's not in your control. So I think focusing on the how and the process elements um, keeps you in a better frame of mind than getting too bogged down in expectations of outcomes because you don't have control over those.
Right. Right, and kind of just shifting with regards to you adjusting to a new team, to the Oakland Wolves. Shout out to Bo. I actually had the pleasure of having her on the podcast a while back. One thing I love is it's a super well-oiled machine in terms of coaching the players that are there. One thing I love as well is just the team bonding, and you could just tell it's just the environment is really nice. So playing with the Oakland Wolves so far, what has been some of your biggest takeaways from playing with the Oakland Wolves, but also being in the Super League Women's?
Yeah, I think that we have a really talented group, which is really exciting. I think that we are still figuring out in a lot of ways how to mesh that talent and how to be the best team that we can and use everybody's individual strengths to the best of their abilities so everyone kind of is in a good spot to succeed. But obviously like potential is very high and it's a fun group to play with. Like you said, we do all get along off the court, which makes it just that much more fun and that helps a lot and that'll only kind of help, translate to on the court as well. So it's also nice. I have my teammate Anissa here I was with a teammate with her in Finland last season. So it's nice to kind of
Yes.
come into a place with some familiarity. I don't think I ever know my teammates normally. So it was really nice to come over with her and then also obviously meet everyone else and kind of build bonds and go on this journey together.
And just through the training sessions, the game scenarios you've been, the players you look up to, the players you've observed, in your opinion, Devin, like what separates the players who thrive from the players who just plateau?
I would say the players that thrive at the end of the day are the ones that have love for the game and are having fun, kind of like you mentioned before. Um, that's what's going to take you a lot further because you have to really love the game at the end of the day, even when it's hard and even when things aren't going well. That's what's going to bring you back and have you keep showing up. I also think, people that that have really solid routines around what makes them successful. So knowing how to take care of your body on and off the court, all those things of like sleeping, eating, recovery, that's also what's going to keep you in the game longer. Those
True.
things only become more and more important the longer that you play. So I would say those are kind of the main factors.
Right. And just being a pro and the level you compete at, I'm sure there's habits you first started with, and then as experience came into play, you may have tweaked it a bit or you may have replaced one habit with another. So if you had to really narrow it down, like what are the three habits that changed your career the most as a pro?
I would say so many. It's hard.
Nice.
Um, I would say kind of like having like a prehab routine, which I'm always tweaking based on how my body's doing. But that's been very important in keeping myself healthy and court ready, and also a little bit more like injury proof, hopefully. So having that and making sure I stay committed to that pretty much daily. Um,
Yeah.
has been a big one. Um, and then breath work and meditation along with visualization has been another the big one that I do daily. I have a routine around that that keeps me grounded, keeps me centered, and also allows me to kind of have a space where I'm visualizing myself in playing, how I want to be playing, and that only kind of primes my brain to be able to do that when it's come to game time. So that's another a really great habit, and then also, like I said, the breath work kind of is good for recovery and also good for calming nervous system and all of that. So that's been a big development. And then thirdly, I mean, I've always been good at it, but sleep is very sacred to me. I
Mm,
make
love that
sure that
last one. Yeah.
I protect my sleep at all costs. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big one. And that's really the
Yeah.
foundation
Yeah.
of recovery. I mean, we have so many modalities now, which I use. Like, you have Normatec, you have foam roller, you have cryo, you have saunas, and all of that. Oh, actually, sauna might be in there, but anyway, um, you have all these modalities for recovery to help you, and they're all fantastic and wonderful, and they help, but they're worth nothing if you don't sleep.
True.
So that's really the foundation of performance, honestly.
Yeah. See, and that you really got me on that last one, sleep. Like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
and it's something so simple, but I feel like I want to speak for myself. I can really make it complicated because I mean I've just got into reading now, so I could be like, okay,
hmm
D, you're gonna read this last chapter. When it hits 10, you need to be in your bed, chilling. Devin, why is it 11:30 and I'm on like chapter 72 and I'm like, oh, just one more, but just what you said, sleep is so key. And even just for yourself, like being a mindset and play development coach, like with the clients you've worked with so far and are working with, like what habits do you see in some of those clients that they're lacking the most in, would you say?
Sleep.
Yeah.
um, because I mean, I work with youth, so like teenagers and high school kids and stuff. So that age, you're pulled in so many different directions with school and sports and life, and I think it can be really hard. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but yeah, I think that's probably the one that goes for them a lot.
Right, right. And kind of just separating before we wrap up with the beyond the game segment, kind of just separating Devin, the high level athlete, to Devin, the person, kind of just speaking about you outside of basketball. Like, what are your passions or routines that keep you balanced and grounded, would you say?
I love yoga. I do it in some form every day, with longer sessions or classes when I can. But that's a huge one that kind of connects mind and body and is a bit meditative in practice. And that's something that I've gone into throughout my career. So that's definitely an essential part of off the court. I love nature. um, Love going for walks. I love just being in nature. That's something that's really important for me. It just kind of immediately calms me, and I'm connected and happy. So here it just depends. I mean, here there's nice woods where I'm living now, so I can
Yeah.
go through for walks there. When I'm home, it's definitely the beach. I live on the beach in the summer, so
Oh, amazing.
yeah.
Amazing.
So I think, yeah, nature's a big one for me. And animals, I love animals. So
Nice.
when I'm home, I have two dogs. So I probably honestly miss them the most when I'm gone because I can't like FaceTime the dogs.
What's their names?
Chai and Piper.
Chai and Piper. Why do I feel like
Yeah.
Piper's the one who can be a bit more erratic, or am I wrong?
Honestly, it's the opposite. Yeah, it's the opposite.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chai can be a bit. She can be a bit out there. But no, they're great. But even when I'm over here, I try to. A couple of my teammates have dogs, so that's nice. And I just yeah, I love just being around animals. They make me happy. Any of them.
Yeah. Nice. And
Yes.
how has we spoke about it earlier, but again, like how has traveling the world shaped you, not just as a player, but as a person?
I think that it expands your notion of just of what's out there. And I would say before I started playing in Europe, didn't I didn't really know much at all about Europe. I mean, I knew Europe, but like I didn't have an over interest in traveling there and exploring. And now I like have the travel bug. I have my whole list, and it just keeps growing even when I cross places off. Because I feel like I want to see everything. Like I'm definitely the one. Anytime that there's a spare moment, which there's not a ton, but if we have a weekend off or FIBA breaks, for example, I'm gone. I'm going somewhere. I'm seeing somewhere new. So I love just experiencing new places, new people, new culture, and yeah, I can't get enough.
Nice. I love that. I love that. As we kind of enter the beyond the game segment, this first question I'm super intrigued to
Mm,
ask you. Now, this question, this could go the basketball route or the life route or both. It's
okay.
really whichever side resonates the most. And the question that I've got for you, Devin, is what would you say is a skill that is taught by many but only mastered by a few?
I would say discipline. I think that discipline you hear a lot about, showing up every day and having that consistency. And I think it's taught by a lot, but I don't think that it's always executed very well. And I think that that's a big separator in what keeps people or what gets people successful. And maybe like you mentioned earlier, my plateau is having that discipline to show up regardless of how you feel, regardless of what's happening, to maintain your routines and your goals, and knowing what it takes to get there. And it doesn't mean that you never have a bad day or anything like that, but I think more times than not you have that consistency of showing up.
Yeah, discipline. I like that. I like that. Next one. What is something failure taught you that success couldn't?
I think failure has kept me hungry and taught me resilience. I think sometimes if if everything were easy and successful, you could get really complacent. So never have complacency
True.
issues. So yeah, I think it keeps you hungry and keeps you. It also keeps me like in a learner's mindset, and how can I just keep figuring things out. That's all we're trying to do is people just trying to figure it out. So
That's true.
whatever that is for each individual, just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Very, very true. Very true. Final three. Best piece of advice you ever received.
My I don't know why this is coming to my head, but my dad always this is probably not the best, but it's something. My dad always says like, "Don't let the a-holes get you down." So which I think applies. I don't know how, but it applies to a lot of things. It's like not getting caught up in what other people think or in things you can't control, like I
Yeah.
said, and really locking in on what you want and what you can do, and not letting other people get in your way.
Right. Shout out to Pops. I love that. I love that. Next one. And this is more of a statement, and you have to fill in the blank. And the
Okay.
statement is if it wasn't for basketball, I wouldn't have learnt filling the blank about myself.
I wouldn't have learned my resiliency.
Okay. And the final one, I'm going to set the scene now. So we have someone, Devin, who's been following your journey from the very beginning. She's got every single jersey that you've played in, and she's a diehard fan. And she's just now found out that you have written a book. So as soon as she finishes her training, she's on her way to, like, if you're in the US, like the Barnes and Nobles, if you're here in the UK, like Waterstones, and she's gone to the librarian, like, where can I get the book by Devin? Librarian says if you go upstairs, you turn right at the end of the aisle. If you go to the New York Times best-selling section, you can't miss it. So she's going up the stairs. She's super excited. She goes to the top shelf and she grabs your book, Devin, and she looks at it. And a question that I want to ask you is, what would the title of your autobiography be?
Oh my goodness, these are hard. I will definitely have to think on that one. That's
Yes,
a
please,
great
please.
question. Something about like maybe like the like a global pursuit or something like that. So something about I'm gonna have to tweak it a bit, but something about
Yeah, for
encompassing,
sure.
travel and also pursuing your dreams, tying that in. Yeah, that's a good one though. I'll
I
have
like
to
that. Yeah, I like that. Why do you mean that? Because that's an interesting title.
I just think that that kind of surmises my journey so far. It's taking me many different places, and it's all just kind of on this singular pursuit of really just my best. And wherever that can take me is where I'm trying to go.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Honestly, Devon, again, myself and the listeners, thank you so much for your time. Honestly, man, this has been a really learning experience for me, to be honest. And I could just tell you, you've helped and are helping so many athletes. Especially just on identity outside of basketball, confidence, how to manage expectation, comparison, and again, there's more to life than basketball. So honestly, this is I really truly thank you, listeners. Thank you again for joining us on another episode of the Coach D podcast. This is myself, Coach D, and who knows, they're the next best time selling author. That is the high level athlete, Devon Brookshire, signing out. Appreciate you, Devon.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a blast.